Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Real pleasure to speak to you today. Thanks so much for taking the time. Huge congrats on the show. Maybe you can cast your mind back to when you started writing the story. The initial hook, I believe it's sort of based in something true to life, but not necessarily the aspect of arson, but more doing something that you love until it kills you. So can you explain that for us, the root of the story?
Yeah. Well, there was two things that what attracted me to the actual story was the pathology of John Orr, this guy who I mean, he was steeped in denial. I mean, at a stunning level. I mean, this was a guy who saw himself as a hero, who was writing a book about a hero, arson investigator, who was chasing an arsonist. But in real life, Orr was both the arson investigator and the arsonist. And he was laying details in the book that only the real arsonist could know. It was crazy to me. And I just thought, all right, I'm starting with that guy because he's nuts. And then I have always been fascinated with fire ever since I was a little kid. And so I thought, what is fire? What is it at a metaphorical level? Well, I mean, if we take it, it's chaos. Fire is chaos. And yet when it's controlled, it's our best friend. And so it's like, is that emotional terrain? Is that psychological terrain? Yeah, it is. It's all those things. Then I started to think about how every single human being, if they're really being honest with themselves, is attracted to at least one thing that can kill them. One thing. And I thought, okay, so let's start looking at that in terms of our characters. And by this point, I'm talking to my writers and I'm saying, I think we have a really crazy show on our hands, way crazier than I originally thought. So let's embrace that. Let's blow the wheels off this thing. There's no place I want anybody to be fearful about taking this show. And that means that person you thought was the hero of the show, in this case, Michelle, she's not the hero. She's just as messed up as anybody else in this show. Once we embrace that, man, that was the funnest writer's room I've ever been in.
And I think that's maybe the draw as well. I mean, not only has it got that kind of propulsiveness of a thriller, you're really on the edge of your seat. You don't know where the twists and turns are going to take you, but you're also never really on solid ground with these characters. Once you think maybe you've got them in a box, then they do something to completely subvert your expectations. So how did you decide on who are going to play Michelle and Dave? I know you've worked with Taron before, but it was going to be really important to get that right, in terms of the nuance.
Right. And Taron was in from the very beginning. And I knew, Taron was in before I wrote a line. He knew what I was going to do with the character and he was all in. And so we knew we were going to work together on that. With Jurnee, I looked at a lot of actresses for Michelle and I got close with a couple, but then I heard Jurnee was free. I'd expected that she would not be free because I think she's such a talented actress. So I got her the scripts. I got on Zoom with her. And we started talking about Michelle, and I was like, I have my Michelle. She gets it. You have to understand that Michelle is, in many ways, an extremely heroic person. She's very brave. She's a great aunt to her niece. She's very protective of people she loves. And then she's also demented and unpredictable and severely damaged and attracted to things that can kill her. And that you need to be able to do that entire stew. And not many people can, but Jurnee was all in. She was totally game. And I just like feeling as if I have dance partners, with my actors. And I felt like I had two great dance partners right at the top.
And of course, the character of Freddy is also so crucial. Again, of course, you could sort of see him as the villain, but there's something about, that loneliness that while he's someone you can fear, there's also sympathy there. So how did you go about crafting that character and casting that character?
For whatever reason, I have an affinity for sympathetic monsters. I just do. Larry Hall had sympathetic moments in Blackbird, even though he's a monster. Freddy, to me, was inspired by an actual arsonist who killed a lot of people and was yet a really heartbreaking human being. His story was a walking tragedy. And so once I started to build from there, then I find Entare, who he blew me out of the room in his audition. And I just was like, then we became it turned out our kids go to the same school. So we became friends. And then we began to really work the character. And he wanted to know if he should research the real guy. And I said, no, I don't want you going anywhere near it. I would rather you build this guy with me. We'll build him together. And we did. And we built out a whole backstory for him. And that became such a rich portrayal. I love Entare's performance in this. Because Freddy's storyline is very tragic. The rest of the storylines are kind of a bit tragicomic. I mean, they're comic and they're weird and they're violent and they're scary, but Freddy's is just straight down tragedy, man. And he breaks your heart, and yet he destroys people. He really hurts people, and so it's that duality that I'm always kind of playing around with in people.
The production values are just through the roof. What is it like, being able to work with Apple TV Plus, on such a large canvas and really, immerse viewers in this world? And it feels quite noir. It feels quite gritty. What's it like working with them and having that canvas to work across?
Oh, Apple's great, because what they do, they support us. They give us, they were wonderful with Blackbird. They were wonderful with this, which is, we're not getting buried in notes. They accept that this is going to go the way it's going to go. They accept that I'm doing something that's, if you don't hire me if you want the regular thing, you just don't. I mean, I'm not that guy. And so they knew I was coming up with something that was either going to work or was going to miss by a mile. I mean, I think that was the feeling we all had. And they let me go, take off to Vancouver and do it, and bring in the directors I wanted, and bring in the directors of photography that I wanted, to give the show the look that it has. And we had all agreed at a production level very early that we all wanted to make Fire its own character. Fire becomes something in the show, and it's horrific, but it's beautiful. It's repulsive, but it's incredibly sexy. It's all of these things that is kind of like the interior lives of most of the characters.
Very well put. I'm out of time, but thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and I can't wait for everyone else to see Smoke. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.